Check out Creepypasta Rules channel. We are posting a new video with list of rules every day. Don't forget to subscribe. Link in description. r/Nosleep. Posted by you/likeeyedid. Check out author's subreddit. r/likeeyedid. I work in a lamp store. Shattered lamps mean rain and corpses. Part 4. The days and nights in this town I called home became stranger and stranger. Or at least that's what I thought. In a way, however, I guess they became more normal. Ever since I'd moved here, the weather had always been absolutely neutral. The sun never shines too bright, it never gets too cold. We'd never seen a heat wave and neither snow. To be perfectly honest, you hardly realize there is weather at all. It is just perfectly adjusted to our bodies. Or maybe the other way around. Habituation. If everything's the same all the time, you stop noticing it. That is until there is a sudden change. One that breaks you out of the cycle. Today exactly that happened. It started raining. First, there were only a few drops that I could hear splashing against my bedroom window. I woke up wondering what it was until my tired mind started remembering that sound from a very long time ago. It used to rain a lot where I was before and I always found the sound calming. Not today, however. It simply increased the feeling of wrongness. I stayed in bed for a little while longer watching the drops race down the window. My night, or better day of sleep, was plagued by nightmares. Most of them included Leon and his manic smile. Those eyes that seemed to know nothing but torture. Last night I believed I would be dying inside that store of light. I had gotten away just in time. Whoever that was that got so close to me, it wasn't the same Leon I had met on my first night shift. Considering I'd only seen him a handful of times, of course I couldn't quite say which one of them was wrong, but I certainly preferred the one with the green eyes. He was a little grumpy but seemed human. This other thing did not. Tonight I would have to work again. Another night shift on Evergreen Avenue, and I most definitely was not ready for it. Especially as I was afraid that the wrong Leon might pay me another visit. If he ever left at all. None of it mattered though. Even if I felt nothing but dread and fear, I knew that staying away was not an option. Even if I consciously made the decision of staying home, I always ended up back at the lamp store. It kept attracting me like a moth. Maybe that was what Leon was too. He had been poisoned by that place and soon I would be too. At 5 to 9, I stood in the darkness again. The rain from earlier hadn't stopped, it only got heavier. In front of me, I saw the store. Even if I was getting soaked out here, I waited until it was 9. As usual, the store was prominently lit and attracted all eyes. Although tonight something was slightly different. The lights weren't as bright as they normally are, even though the storefront was filled with even more lamps than on regular days. I couldn't even see the inside of the shop. Something was wrong. Well, something is always wrong here, but tonight the wrongness was on a new level. I pushed against the door, hoping it would be locked, but it wasn't, which made me dread that Leon would be welcoming me inside. I was as well prepared as one could be to meet him again. I walked in confidently, planning to tell him to screw off. Tonight was my shift and it was time I took some responsibility. Leon didn't own this store after all, and I doubt Mr. Nips would appreciate the way he had been acting. I admit, snitching to my awful boss wasn't the perfect plan, but it was all I could come up with. I didn't expect to see him so soon, however. In no way could I have predicted what I would be walking into. I was greeted by Mr. Nips with his eyes wide. His throat had been cut through, blood was dripping onto the floor of the store. It sounded just like the rain this morning on my window. His body was hanging from the main chandelier on the ceiling. I stood there frozen in shock. Mr. Nips wasn't exactly my favorite person on earth, but nobody deserved to be brutally murdered like this. Riley. Don't worry love, I'll be out of your hair soon. I know it's your night. Leon had appeared from the back with a bright grin on his face like nothing had happened. I wanted to run, but something was keeping me from doing so. Why did you do this? I whispered. My hands were shaking and I couldn't keep my eyes of the empty ones from my eccentric former boss. Leon chuckled. I didn't, you did. I believe you sold a diamond blood lamp? I swallowed. It's alright, Riley. You can never quite know who it will hit, and to be honest, I think I underestimated you. I would never have made a decision that randomly, but you're bold. He walked over, his shoes were squeaking as he nonchalantly walked over the puddle of blood underneath the corpse. I turned away from Leon and the dead man, and that's when I noticed all the broken lamps on the floor. The shelves were far emptier too. He must have moved the last decent ones onto the storefront. I know I made a mess. Collateral damage, I guess. Leon grinned as he had just been reading my mind. I tried to peek through the lamps onto the street. It wasn't silent as it is on most nights. The rain had turned into a loud and heavy storm. Even the sky seemed to understand that something was different here. "Who are you?" I hissed at the imposter. I felt sick to my stomach talking to this thing, but there had to be a reason he was sparing me. He hadn't hurt me last night and he even seemed happy to see me now. Bold asking someone this question if you don't even know who you are yourself. He came closer and I was sure that I soon would be hanging there next to Mr. Nips. My breathing got heavier while I contemplated all my options here. There weren't many. Well, Riley. With that miserable man gone, the store will soon belong to one of us, I assume. I'd like to make sure that person will be me, he grinned. I don't give a shit about this store, I responded. That's a fucking lie. You keep coming back. You want this, he hissed. His expression was full of hate and anger, and at first, I thought the veins on his forehead would pop any second. Before I realized that those were not veins. They looked more like cracks in his skin. What did you do to the real Leon? I whispered. Did you kill him like Nips to take his skin? Suddenly lightning struck and for a moment all the lamps in our store started flickering before finally losing their light. I stood there in the darkness with a demon who murdered both my colleague and my boss. The storm outside was the only sound we could hear. The wind became so strong that the front door slammed open. Nobody would come inside tonight. We had no light. I heard Leon coming closer, and when lightning struck again all I saw was his grin in the white light. This is my moment, I thought. The store is as dark as Evergreen Avenue. I hoped that there would be another flash, and when it finally came, I ran towards the door and to the one place around here that might have some light and possibly some answers for me. I fought against the wind and the rain, hoping that the Leon imposter didn't follow me when I grabbed the door handle of the pub. He hadn't followed me. I was soaked and afraid, but at least I had achieved to get out of there. The magnetism of the light let go of me thanks to this horrible storm, but I knew the light would come back and then I would have to go as well. Until then, however, I would try to find the lady that smelled the rotten Leon first. I walked up towards the bar where I saw the same barkeeper as the other night. "Hi, sorry, do you know Ms. Smithel?" I asked. The barkeeper was a man in his early 30s. In a way, he resembled Leon a bit, except he was a bit older and had darker hair. "You must be Riley," he said in a concerned voice. I nodded. It didn't even surprise me that he knew me. He started pouring a drink for me and told me to sit down. "I was hoping you would come here for a drink. I can't really leave myself, you know. At least not as I wish." I sat down on the bar stool. "Do you know Leon?" He nodded. "He used to come here at times." His eyes shifted towards the door of the pub. For a second I was afraid the imposter would come in. "I'm Josh." "Do you know what happened to him?" I asked. Josh's eyes went back to the door. "We don't have much time before you have to leave again, Riley. I was hoping you would come over, however. You see, I'd like to purchase a lamp." I sighed. "Are you fucking kidding me?" I thought I had gotten away from that misery for a second, but now I would have to choose another fate. After what I'd done to Mr. Nips, I certainly wasn't ready for that. I already know which one I would like. It's a wooden lamp. A little dark on the outside but bright light. You know which one I mean, right? I nodded. "So who are the victims?" I asked. "I see, the cynicism has gotten you already. Okay, well, number one is a collector of human components. The second is an artist who enjoys the dance of death. The last one might remind you of Christmas. Unfortunately, that is all I know." "There is only one right answer, isn't there?" I asked. To be perfectly honest, I happen to have my own agenda as well. They are all right for me, but only one is for you. I thought about it for a second. It seemed so absurd, but if I followed my gut only one felt correct. The Christmas one. I felt a tingle in my hands, it went all the way to my head. Like a migraine moving through my entire body. "I think I have to go back," I whispered. Josh nodded. "Before your shift ends tonight, can you take the wooden lamp and place it next to the door of the pub? Knock 3 times and leave." I didn't know why he asked me to do so, but I agreed. With a sick feeling in my stomach, I went back to the lamp store, which from the outside was prominently lit again. The door was wide open and the body of Mr. Nips was gone, with a trail of blood going all the way to the front. Leon must have carried him outside and would probably be back soon. But at least the storm was calming down.